Oh, hi guys, Sila here. Can I ask you, where you were 20 years ago? Well, if you were a giant toy company called Lego, you were kinda in some finance issues. Simply, the bricks weren't selling very well. True, licensed sets somehow kept you up, but you still had a lot of issue with money. So, when you have issues, what do? Innovate. And that way, Lego wanted to move into a new medium. Evolving the older ideas from Lego Technic sets, they decided to make a toy series called Lego Voodoo Heads. Voodoo Heads was supposed to talk about a tribe of robot-like beings that lived on a magical island. It was a really simple concept that was supposed to go only for a few years. And that way, with the help of a man called Christian Faber, they decided to polish up the idea of Voodoo Heads, turning them into something grander, bigger, at least 3 years of story and toys. They decided to name that line Biomechanical Chronicles, and it became one of their most popular toy lines to this day. And since 2021 is the 20th anniversary of Bionicle, I decided to start a little project where I will talk about a Bionicle set every month. For January, let's start with 3 of the great heroes of Matanui. So, hi guys, Sila here. Can I ask you, do you want to learn the legend of Bionicle?
On the island of Matanui, 6 mighty heroes rise against evil. To succeed, they must find the masks of power. Join their quest against evil.
At the start, in the time before time, there were 6 canisters that washed on the shore of the mythical island of Matanui. Each canister contained a Toa. Toa were powerful heroes. Each of them wielded a different elemental power and a special mask with magical abilities. They were supposed to save this island from an evil being named Makuta. Today, I will talk about 3 of those heroes. Kopaka, cold and calculated Toa of ice, the deputy leader of the team. Gali, wise and powerful Toa of water, the main heart that keeps the whole team together. Lewa, light-hearted and witty Toa of air, the main jokester of the team. All of them arrived in the canisters to the toy store shelves in 2001 Lego Technic Bionicle series. Kopaka, numbered 8536, contained 33 pieces. Gali, numbered 8533, consisted of 35 pieces. Lewa, numbered 8535, and consisted of 36 pieces. In their toy form, the containers contained the pieces themselves, instruction, and a collectible poster. And some releases even came of a mini promotional CD that contained various information about the marketing material in the world of Bionicle. Before I get into the Toa themselves, I will talk about the canister. Yeah, even the packaging was a toy. The lid is a great example of a synergy between the Bionicle lore and Bionicle toys, since when taken off, the lid acts as a suva, which was an altar placed in each village of Matanui Island, where each one was dedicated to each Toa. That way, each canister contains a different piece that's molded in different colors. Their purpose was to store their magical masks, which the Toa collected through the first half of the adventure. The canister also had a rotating sleeve, which depicted secret codes for each mask. You could insert those codes on special sites to unlock the information about the world. The canister itself was also a container for the figure. Opening it up, you could take out the figure to recreate the way they washed on the shores of Matanui. At the first glance, all Toa looked really similar, being the same humanoid multicolored robot-like figure, but only after setting them closer, you will notice how the biomechanical warriors differentiate themselves through their simple yet effective builds.
Kopaka was mostly white, grey and black. His shoulders were mounted downward, giving him more of a sleek design. His equipment consisted of an ice sword and an ice shield, through which he could emit his ice powers. Kopaka's mask, Akaku, the Mask of Vision, gifted him with the power to see through solid objects. The mask was also equipped with a custom set of lenses that let Kopaka see for longer distances. Gali had this piece mounted on her chest. Combined with the pins sticking it out of her hips, the intention was probably to give her more of a feminine body type, since she was the only female of the team. Gali was equipped with a pair of hooks that let her scale the slippery waterfalls of the island, as well as channel her water powers through them. Her mask is Kanohi Cow Cow, Mask of Water Breathing. It lets her survive longer underwater. Lewa had a similar shoulder build to Kopaka, but one of his arms was mounted by a grey pin axle, which has a much weaker tension. That feature was probably chosen to emulate the swinging motion, since swinging through the vines and trees of the jungles was his preferred way of transportation. Miru, the great mask of levitation, also helped him move through the forest, since it slowed down his downfall, which let him move with the wind currents. As his weapon, Lewa wielded an axe that's mostly used to cut through the vines and trees that stood in his way. In the articulation department, the heroes were a bit limited. Their shoulders had ball joints, which you could swing around. Lewa and Kopaka could do an easier up and down motion, while Gali had it easier to swing them forward and back. Their legs were mounted on ball joints in their hips. Their feet were also ball jointed. You could also get some additional articulation by rebuilding the pieces a bit. The hip could be detached and reattached in 90-degree angles. Head can also be rotated that way. The toa could also look up by mounting the axles in their mouths. Of course, since this is a Lego set, you could easily modify the sets to give them more articulation. My personal favorite way is cutting up the pieces of those Lego rubber tubes. True, they wobble a little bit, but now the toa can fully rotate and even slightly bend their heads. So, that was the articulation. It's really limited, but for the times and the first articulated Lego action figure, they were revolutionary. The joints feel really sturdy, and even to this day, you can find many undamaged parts. But there was also a reason for the limitation. As I mentioned earlier, Bionicle were a sub-series of Technic, which means that there needed to be an action function. For all Toamata, it's a combat gimmick. By turning the cogs on their backs, they would swing their arms. Gali swung both of them, emulating swimming. Kopaka and Lewa swung their right arm. The intended usage of this gimmick was for kids to fight with the toys, to knock out the mask of the enemy, to signify their character losing their powers. Sadly, this gimmick was connected to an issue with the toy. To let mask be knocked out easily, the mask need to be connected by a small peg, which makes the mask really easy to lose. Now, comparing them to some other heroes. Kopaka, standing next to a fellow Cold Break, Classic Sproul. Gali, next to the Power Rangers Beast Morphers Yellow Ranger. And Lewa, next to a fellow carefree buildable warrior, Roka 3.0 from Hero Factory. And here are all the heroes sounding together. So, we finished talking about the individual warriors. But what if the power of darkness is too strong? As revealed in a vision that Gali got, while unconscious, if needed, the Toa can combine into a more powerful form. Legendary Toa Kaita. In the story, Kopaka, Gali and Lewa fused their mind and bodies to form Toa Kaita Wairua. Wairua had the combined elemental powers of every individual Toa and Kanohi Rua, here depicted by Kanohi Miru. They did release a more accurate silver version in the Bionicle Power Pack, but sadly I couldn't secure it. Rua is the great Kanohi of wisdom. The mask gives Wairua all the same powers that the supplementary masks had. Wairua was really clunky, as the animation Wairua did jumps and counters to his enemies, This one has issues standing. His sense of existence is probably just to sell a combination gimmick and to motivate kids to buy old 6 Toa. Toy still retains a Technic gimmick. Turning the gears on Wairua's lower back causes his legs to move forwards and backwards. Wairua also has 2 gears on his upper back, each of them controlling one of his respective arms. Wairua's articulation is really simple. There's a bunch of ball joints and swings, but it's hard to use it since he is so unstable. I really wanted to make more pictures with him, but it was hard. At least the process of building is kinda impressive. The way all 3 bodies combine to form this massive, 3-pecked chest. For some unique builds, I would say that this foot held by an axle in the ball socket is pretty weird. Here is Wairua next to earlier mentioned heroes. Classic Sproul, Beast Morph's Yellow Ranger, and Roka 3.0. Let's uncombine Wairua for our final thoughts. It's kinda hard for me to talk about Toamata objectively. Even though I didn't grow up with those toys, I was reading and looking at the pictures of the adventures since I was a small kid. But I can see why kids enjoy this set into the 2000s, and why adult kids would still enjoy those stories today. While Wairua, as I mentioned, feels just a bit clunky and forced. But I can say that he was just a start of what future combining sets were to come.
But that's a story for a different time. Thank you all for watching me talk about some beings that lived on the island of Matanui. I hope we'll see each other next time, where I will cover the other 3 Toamata heroes. So, thank you for watching, goodbye, and I hope I will see you all later.